Hello and welcome back to Exothermic Plays Games. I'm Exothermic and the date today is Saturday, August 31st, 2024. I've been doing a countdown of my favorite video games of all time through each day of the year, and coming in at number 123 is SoulCalibur II. Alright, before I really jump into this game, I've got two quick things. First, my Patreon launches tomorrow. There's a link with an explanation of how it works in the description. You can watch it. I'll have another video up tomorrow if you want to wait for that one. Second, this ranking is technically for the GameCube version of this game specifically. The reason that matters is the roster changes based on platform with a unique character on each. PlayStation 2 had some dude from Tekken that I don't care about. Xbox had Todd McFarlane's Spawn, which is actually super cool, so I guess we can put that version here too. And GameCube had Link from The Legend of Zelda, which is very cool of Nintendo to put that character into a gritty murder game. Smash Bros doesn't count, it's not gritty, and it's not murder. Anyways, on to the gameplay. This is a 3D action fighting game. You're still on a 2D plane, kind of, but can rotate around a room, and the rooms do matter. More on that in a bit. Like most fighting games, you have your basic punches, basic kicks, and can combo inputs along with direction buttons to do special attacks and chain things together as combos. This does pretty well, and the GameCube controller is excellent for it. Like really, I love this controller, especially for things like this. The giant A button makes me very happy. Unlike in Street Fighter, where I can pretty much only play Ryu, I can actually kind of play two characters. Kind of. Look, I've said it a million times, I suck at fighting games, but that doesn't stop them from being fun. There's two things about the gameplay that are especially interesting. Rather than having different strengths punches or kicks that enable your different combos by having various different buttons, like maybe too many buttons, you instead press very quickly or hold the buttons for different length times. The first character I have somewhat actually learned and almost exclusively played 20 years ago is Nightmare. The dude's a giant knight with a big-ass living sword with a giant eye in the middle of it. He's slow as hell, but due to the size of his sword, actually has pretty decent reach, and if you can time your attacks right, he packs a punch. One of my favorite things he does is this thing where he flips his sword around a whole bunch, but you can also do backward slashing attacks, forward leaping jabs, and a really slow but hard-hitting backhand from behind himself. There's more he can do, and I'm sure there's words for all of this. I'm not an actual swordsman, so I have no idea what any of this shit is called. The second character I played a lot of was, of course, Link. He's got his Master Sword and Shield and does a lot of smaller, faster swordplay things. He can also do a lot of his iconic attacks from throughout the Zelda games, like his charged up spin attack. But that's not all. He can pull out his trusty bow and arrow and charge that up, or even pull out a bomb and throw that at people, or throw his boomerang. Link's actually, I think, really good if you learn all of his tips and tricks and manage to keep your opponent away from you a bit. He definitely feels more technical to me than Nightmare, so you better believe I played more of the big, dumb, hit hard, look cool dude. There's a couple other more wrinkles to the fighting itself that I do want to touch on. First, the throws are pretty interesting, with various different ones depending on what buttons you combo with it, and even the direction you're coming from. I'm not very good at grappling, but it's fun to watch. Second, there's a thing called Soul Charge. With GameCube, if you press the Z button, and on other consoles it's something else, your character starts gathering energy. There's techie stuff you could do with the guard button to get different levels of charge, but I never really bothered with it, even though I'm sure I should. But if you manage to go the whole length of the animation without getting interrupted at all, you get a massive bonus to your next attack. So the fighting is cool, and if you just want to hash it out, you can, of course, just do that with free play or the arcade mode. But if you're like me and don't want to actually be competitive in these games, but still want to play them, there's a whole single-player campaign. You pick your character and start your fairly lengthy solo campaign looking for the mythical weapon SoulCalibur. Along the way, you'll fight all sorts of enemies in the form of other playable characters in this game, but often there's differences with the stages, like different victory conditions, or things that change how much damage different types of attacks do, or environmental effects, It's really well done and makes every fight memorable and interesting. This is where the real meat of the game is, and I think the primary reason to play it. On top of the different types of fights, the maps matter a lot too. There's terrain you can interact with, primarily in the form of map edges, where you can knock your opponent right off and instantly end the fight. This makes the 3D positioning of the game really interesting beyond the typical sidestepping attacks and other maneuvers like that. Additionally, there's more to this campaign than just the combat. This comes with role-playing elements too. As you defeat fighters, you gain money that you can spend to unlock new weapons for different characters, and can equip those weapons to change things like your attack speed, damage, reach, all of it. You can even get utility weapons that heal you when you do specific things, for example. It's awesome, and I wish more fighting games focused on single-player progression than just on multiplayer. That being said, if you do want the progression to count for your multiplayer, there are game modes you can do to just fight with the weapons you've unlocked, as opposed to the traditional, I assume much more finely tuned and balanced multiplayer experience. Street Fighter IV, which I ranked recently as my 129th favorite game, definitely has, I think, smoother and better combat, at least for the most part, but this game mode definitely gives SoulCalibur II the edge. Join me tomorrow as I talk about my 122nd favorite game, where I play with shiny rocks and my antagonists care way too much about their appearances.